Result: in the tranquil expanse of the Italian countryside, circa 150 BCE, we find a modest farmer toiling under the sun. His land, though small mere acres of golden wheat and barley, bears the fruits of hard labor. A flourishing olive grove, a venerable vineyard planted by his grandfather, and a handful of goats and chickens. This humble estate is enough to nourish his family and, with a bountiful harvest, perhaps yield a little surplus for the bustling local market. Life, while challenging, remains manageable in this pastoral paradise. However, the serenity of this existence is shattered one fateful morning. The distant sound of horses and the rhythmic march of soldiers disrupts the quietude. The Roman tax collectors have arrived, their presence a harbinger of distress. They demand a substantial share of the farmer's grain, livestock, and the scant coins he possesses. They proclaim this tax as a civic duty, a contribution to the grandeur of the republic roads, aqueducts, and the formidable legions safeguarding the empire. Yet, to the farmer, it feels less like duty and more like an act of sanctioned theft. The stark reality reveals itself. The Roman Empire thrived not on valor or nobility, but on the burdens of taxation. While the affluent elite in Rome devised intricate schemes to evade their dues, it was the hard-working farmers, like our protagonist, who bore the oppressive weight of these levies. Failure to meet the tax quota brought no mercy. Officials wielded the power to seize crops, confiscate lands, or plunge families into the depths of debt slavery. Picture the despair of a father, helplessly watching as soldiers cart away sacks of grain, fully aware that his children may face hunger as winter approaches. Small farmers across the Roman Republic, and later the expansive Roman Empire. Ironically, these farmers once formed the backbone of Rome's might. In the empire's early days, landowning citizens not only sustained the populace but also served valiantly as soldiers. The consequences of this systemic oppression extended beyond individual tragedies. They reshaped the very fabric of Roman society. As farmers lost their lands, they flocked to the cities, transforming into a restless, unemployed populace. Rome became a city teeming with discontented citizens, reliant on meager grain handouts. Meanwhile, the wealthy capitalized on this turmoil, acquiring the forsaken lands and establishing sprawling estates tended by slaves. The once thriving countryside was hollowed out, and the class of free, independent farmers dwindled to near extinction. Thus, while historical narratives often attribute the fall of Rome to barbarian invasions, civil strife, or corrupt leadership, the truth is far more nuanced. The roots of Rome's decline were sown much earlier within the quiet suffering of its small farmers. The devastation wrought by taxation was not merely an economic crisis. It represented the gradual poisoning of Rome's essence. Result: in the intricate tapestry of the Roman Republic's economy, taxation served as the vital artery that nourished the sprawling empire. It was not just a bureaucratic obligation, it was the very essence of Rome's grandeur. Each meticulously constructed road, every engineering marvel like aqueducts delivering life-sustaining water, and the legions safeguarding the empire's borders were all funded by the relentless flow of taxes. The prosperity of Rome rested squarely on the contributions of its taxpayers, though the weight of this responsibility was far from evenly distributed. At its core, the Roman tax system was deceptively straightforward yet ruthlessly implemented. The empire extracted various forms of tribute, grain, livestock, olives, wine, and, where feasible, monetary payments. For the affluent senators and aristocrats, taxation was merely a minor inconvenience, easily navigated through their extensive resources and political leverage. In stark contrast, for the small farmer, taxation was akin to an unyielding tempest. The state demanded its dues regardless of an individual's fortunes. In times of drought or flood, or when warfare ravaged the land, the tax collector would still appear, demanding the same quota as in prosperous seasons. Nature's whims were of no concern to the state. The Republic's needs consistently eclipsed the struggles of its citizens. A farmer unable to meet these demands faced dire repercussions: land confiscation, sale of tools, and the potential descent into debt servitude. This system operated with chilling precision. Rome utilized publicani private tax collectors who acted as mercenaries in the realm of revenue. These individuals would bid for the privilege to collect taxes in specific provinces, and once in control, they would extract every possible denarius from the populace. Their insatiable greed often led to coercion, compelling farmers to pay not only the official rates but also additional contributions to enrich the collectors. For many, this resulted in financial suffocation. However, taxation transcended mere monetary collection. It was a mechanism of control. By draining resources from small landowners, Rome fostered a sense of dependency. Citizens who once prided themselves on self-sufficiency were transformed into indebted peasants, reliant on the state for grain and sustenance. The government, in a cruel twist, offered back what it had already taken, perpetuating a cycle of reliance that undermined the independence of Roman citizens. Thus, the Roman tax system, crucial for sustaining an empire of such magnitude, harbored a hidden venom. It fueled the opulence of Rome while simultaneously eroding the essential backbone of society, the small, independent farmer. Each tax collected, each grain seized, served to gradually undermine the very structure upon which Rome's magnificence was built. The Roman farmer during the decline of the Republic stands as a stark illustration of economic imbalance and systemic failure. Once the backbone of agrarian society, these farmers faced an ever-mounting burden as state demands eclipsed their ability to sustain their livelihoods. Each passing season transformed their toil from honorable labor into a desperate struggle for survival. The tax structure, inflexible and draconian, required farmers to relinquish nearly half of their grain to the state. This relentless extraction left them with scant resources to feed their families, particularly during times of drought or crop failure. The unwavering nature of these taxes mirrored the rigidity of time itself, an unyielding force indifferent to the farmer's plight. The state's priorities lay far from the rural heartland. Its focus was on provisioning distant armies, leaving little regard for the local populace. In response to these pressures, many farmers resorted to loans from wealthy landowners or money lenders, a decision that often spiraled into a cycle of debt. Initially perceived as a lifeline, these loans quickly morphed into shackles, binding farmers to a future of uncertainty. Unable to repay their debts, they faced the grim reality of losing their ancestral lands, forced to navigate a new existence as tenant laborers or, worse, seeking refuge in overcrowded cities, reliant on state handouts. This economic transformation led to the consolidation of land into vast estates known as latifundia, fundamentally altering the agricultural landscape. Small farms disappeared, replaced by expansive holdings operated by enslaved laborers captured in Rome's unending military campaigns. The shift not only reshaped the economy but also eroded the societal fabric of Rome itself. The proud yeoman farmer, once a symbol of Roman virtue, was being supplanted by a class of landless laborers with little loyalty to the state. The emotional ramifications of this economic crisis were profound. Generations of families, once rooted to their land, found themselves displaced, their histories and identities uprooted. The inability of fathers to provide, the desperation of mothers bartering for survival, and the heartbreaking exodus of young men seeking sustenance in urban centers painted a grim picture of societal decay. This was not merely an economic narrative, it was a human tragedy, underscoring the devastating impact of fiscal policies that prioritized state needs over individual welfare. The struggles of these farmers serve as a cautionary tale in financial history, a reminder of the potential consequences of economic exploitation. With each farm that succumbed to debt and despair, the very foundation of Rome weakened, foreshadowing the fractures that would eventually contribute to the empire's downfall. The story of the Roman farmer is not just a tale of agricultural decline. It is a reflection on the intricate interplay between finance, society, and the human condition. The narrative of Rome's decline is often painted with the strokes of barbarian invasions and political treachery. However, a deeper examination reveals that the true roots of its downfall lay in the financial mismanagement and exploitation of its agrarian backbone long before the Visigoths breached its walls. At the heart of Rome's economy were its farmers, the very citizens who cultivated the land and sustained the population. They were not merely laborers, they were the backbone of Roman society, embodying the virtues of hard work and civic duty. As Rome expanded, the insatiable appetite for revenue led to a burdensome tax system that transformed these proud farmers into mere debtors, struggling under the weight of their obligations. This economic transformation had dire implications. The shift from a republic of self-sufficient farmers to a class of indebted tenants marked the beginning of a civilizational crisis. The taxes, initially intended to fund the legions and grand infrastructure, became a double-edged sword. As smallholders lost their lands, they migrated to cities, swelling the ranks of the disenfranchised and dependent, a stark contrast to the disciplined citizen soldiers who once stood guard over Rome's legacy. The consequences of this economic fracture were profound. The erosion of the farmer class laid the groundwork for a society rife with instability. Loyalty shifted from the state to ambitious generals, and the specter of civil unrest loomed large. As external threats emerged, Rome found itself not as a unified front but as a hollow entity, weakened by internal decay and social discord. The story of Rome's economic plight serves as a cautionary tale for modern nations. The treatment of the working class remains a bellwether for national stability. Overburdening those who drive the economy can lead to systemic failure, mirroring the decline of the Roman Empire. Thus, as we analyze the fall of this once great civilization, it becomes evident that its undoing was not solely due to foreign invaders, but rather a self-inflicted wound, a consequence of prioritizing short-term gain over the long-term health of its foundational classes. The collapse of Rome was inscribed not just in the annals of warfare, but in the silent struggles of the farmers who, in their despair, heralded the end of an empire.